time now for our press review. Deputy Laurent joins me for a look through the top stories of the day. Deputy, welcome to you. You're looking at reactions in Colombia, of course, after the election of the new president, the conservative Ivan Duque.
That's right, Duque Presidente. That's a headline from the Colombian papers El Nuevo Siglo. That's on the front page there. It's also on the front page of El Diario this Monday. The paper hailing Duque's speech that they say was firm against all inequalities. Now, Duque, of course, faces a divided country, and his biggest task will be healing open wounds from a bruising campaign. That's what El Espectador, another Colombian daily, says in its editorial, urging the president to work to be the, quote, president of all Colombians, including those who are his critics. From the Washington Post, well, they warn that Duque's victory could actually upend peace, given that he's, of course, opposed to the terms and conditions of the FARC peace deal. The Washington Post also reminds us that the U.S. is a big winner from these Colombian elections because Duque hails from a staunchly pro-American segment of Colombian politics. He is also Washington-educated, hence the headline here from the Washington Post.
All right, well, moving on to the US. Melania Trump's the latest to condemn her husband's immigration policy that's seen children ripped from their mothers, literally at the border.
Well, criticism is mounting from both sides of the political spectrum, the Republicans and the Democrats, after the White House's immigration policy to forcibly separate immigrant families at the border. The creation of tent cities in Texas where children will be housed. That's also prompted a lot of anger. That's what USA Today says on its front page. Now, as we mentioned, in addition to Democrats, some high-profile Republicans have also spoken out. Barbara Bush, the former First Lady, she called it immoral and cruel. This after 2,000 children were ripped from their families in the past, families ripped apart in the past 6 weeks. As the New York Times explains, Donald Trump has blamed laws passed by the Democrats for this family separation. But critics say he's actually using this tactic to strong-arm the Democrats into accepting border limits, which is what he really wants, when the immigration bill is set to be debated this week.
Right, well, Deputy, in the meantime, there have been some harrowing accounts of what it's like for immigrant families on the border.
Well, the British daily The Independent actually talks about, has interviewed a pediatrician who visited a detention center where some of these immigrant kids are being held. In this article, they speak of a 2-year-old girl, who was there alone. She was screaming. She was pounding her fists on the mat. This is the reality. This is the reality. And doctors are warning that this toxic stress on brains so young can actually lead to very serious problems later in life, like drug abuse, heart disease, that kind of thing. 4,700 health professionals and organizations have signed a petition urging the Trump administration to stop this policy of parental separation. It's also prompted an editorial from the New York Post. Stop breaking up families, the Post says, an imploring message saying, first of all, it looks terrible in the eyes of the world, and it won't even stop families from trying to get back to the States.
As you say, harrowing accounts and images there of what's going on at the southern US border. Staying on the topic of Trump, a long-term cartoonist for a local paper in the US says he's been fired for being too critical of the president in his illustrations.
His name is Rob Rogers, and he was fired last week from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He's a long-term cartoonist there. He's been working there for 25 years. He says he was let go because he's too critical of Donald Trump, a decision that led to an uproar even from the Pittsburgh mayor. Rogers' most recent cartoons, for instance, featured Trump praising North Korean leader Kim Jong-un while Kim was standing atop a pile of skulls, of human skulls. Now, Rogers was a Pulitzer Prize finalist in the 1990s. The paper says he was let go because he had simply become too obsessed with Donald Trump and was too angry for his own good.
OK, well, finally from you, some World Cup news. One footballer drawing a lot of attention during his match from the commentators. That's, of course, the Brazilian player Neymar.
And not for the reasons you might imagine, Rochelle. At the Brazil-Switzerland match on Sunday, the French version of Huffington Post explains that Neymar's hairstyle drew as much commentary as the match itself. It was this mop of blonde highlights that that drew many comparisons. Let's show you one tweet where a user likened it to the yellow crest of a cockatoo. My personal favorite, though, there's a cockatoo. There you can kind of see the resemblance, I guess. My personal favorite, though, was one user who likened it to a bowl of spaghetti, saying it was actually an homage to the Italian side, who, of course, are not present at this year's World Cup.
Big fan of Neymar. I wasn't convinced by the hair either, though, Dipti, I must say. All right, let's end on Mexico's celebrations after its side defeated the world champions Germany 1-0 in their opening match.
Mexico trembled. That's what the Mexican daily Uno says on its front page after that surprising victory against the world champions Germany. In fact, Mexico City literally trembled. The National Seismic Agency recorded earthquake-like tremors at the same time that the goal was scored, and it was actually prompted by fans' massive jumping in Mexico City.
All right, Dipti, yes, of course, Mexican supporters extremely happy. Who'd have thunk it? Thank you very much for the roundup of the press there. Don't forget, if you do want to see more, you can always log on to our website. The address is at france24.com.